Hey everyone, it's Ed Gutowski. I wanted to welcome you to our Introduction to Literature class. Our class is going to be loads of fun. You guys, we are in for a treat. So I wanted to just kind of give you a welcome video, kind of introduce you to the class. So basically with our Introduction to Literature class focuses on three things. It focuses on short stories, poetry, and theater. So in addition to that, we're going to read essentially two novels. And both of the novels are great. So I want to talk about the first novel we're going to read. This is Anita Shreve, and it's called A Change in Altitude. And I've used this book before last semester, and students really liked it. They just love this book. And what Shreve does is she really does two things. She creates great, really interesting characters, and there's always a bit of a mystery that goes on with her novel. And this is a novel that's interesting because it's basically set in Kenya, and it deals with a bunch of expats that decide that they're going to climb Mount Kenya. And as they start to make their journey up Mount Kenya, there's an accident, disaster happens, and it's about what happens to these characters after the disaster of them climbing Mount Kenya. Again, there's a lot of complexity to this book. It allows us to open up a lot of themes, feminism, imperialism, and colonialism. And I just found last semester it was such a great book that I wanted to use it again. Now, sometimes in a literature class, students, they always wonder, well, who are the great writers of literature, right? They know some names, maybe Mark Twain, John Steinbeck, right? And Anita Shreve, I would say, recently has just picked up a lot of traction. And a lot of people are arguing that she really deserves to be one of the great female writers of American literature. So with our class, we're going to actually attempt to answer that question. Is Shreve one of the great writers of American literature? And we're going to answer that question by looking at A Change in Altitude. Now, this is the second book we're going to look at. It's called The Harlem Hellfighters. And so we're going to shift gears. We're going to look at a comic book, right? So you could argue one of two things. In an 8-week class, we're basically going to spend the first 5 weeks on Anita Shreve, the last 3 books on the Harlem Hellfighters. But you could argue it doesn't make class easy because we're ending with a comic book, or does it make me just a terrible teacher? Well, that's for you to decide. But the Harlem Hellfighters is significant because it allows us to look at World War I. We'll look at some of the World War I poets. And the interesting thing is, what the Harlem Hellfighters is, it's about the only all-black regiment that fought in World War I. And they never got credit for it for their service to the country until recently. And it really is only a comic book that gives them credit. So there's some really quite powerful ideas that come along with this book. So I think it's worthwhile to bring into a literature class, and that's something else we can argue about as well as we get through class, right? So you can really basically look, our class is set up 8 weeks, so we're basically almost like a quarter system in the UC system. First 5 weeks we'll spend on Anita Shreve, the last 3 weeks we'll spend on the Harlem Hellfighters, and then the last book you need to get is The Backpacker's Guide to Literature. And this is the book that has all the short stories. We'll probably read 2 short stories a week. There's some poetry, and then there are 2 short plays that we're going to look at within A Backpacker's Guide to Literature. And look, our class is going to be a lot of fun. Even though, 8 weeks we cram a lot, it always works out. And you're basically going to start off class. There are 10 poems that are the foundation of class. I want you to kind of look over those 10 poems, and which poem do you like the best? Why do you think our class is going to be based around these poems? And then our class is basically set up so that we never meet in person, right? You have the entire week to complete assignments. So everything is due by Saturday by midnight. And what I found in the past is students like the flexibility. They like having that full week to get work done. It gives them enough time to balance their time. The only exception is on Mondays, you're going to check in on the agenda and let me know you read the agenda. And that way you can be held accountable so that you balance your time during the week. You can ask any questions, and then it also makes me accountable because I need to check in and see how class is going at the start of the week. And within week 1, though, I do also need you by Tuesday by midnight to send a welcome email to me at my campus email where you just kind of introduce yourself, talk about what your expectations for the class are, take a look at the syllabus. But I do need to have that by Tuesday by midnight, because otherwise then I start dropping students. Other than that, look, our class is going to be lots of fun. It's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to know what you think of literature, what you think of the poems, and what you think of the class overall. If you have any questions or concerns, you can send me an email, or you can come by my Zoom office hours.